Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen Qualifier. We are going into our first Deciders match. It's going to be a best of 5, some hot Terran on Terran action if you're into that sort of thing. We've got MaSa and Polt, and I'm excited. The winner is going to go to China to play some StarCraft.
I swing many ways, Nate. I'm ready for some TVT. It always makes me happy inside. Let's go ahead and jump into our game on Overgrowth. Once again, this is going to be a best of 5 as our Canadian Terran player spawning on the right top side of the map. One of the most silent Root for Root members, because normally, when you're part of Root, you're always out there, you're always either streaming or just talking at the forums. MaSa just kind of flies under the radar, but every player in North America knows that when MaSa tries, he is one of the best Terrans of the entire continent, without a shadow of a doubt. And he proves it again today, Nate, as he spawns on the right top side of the map. And he's sending out SFVs very early as well.
He's going to bring the cheddar over to his opponent. And we see, he has not sent out any workers himself. He's a modest man as well. Representing Cooler Master Storm, it is Polt. Good old Polt.
So what are we expecting here, Nate? You're the Terran Master. I expect you to go nuts over here.
Well, with the way that MaSa's opened up, it screams Proxy Marauder or Proxy Reaper. And usually it depends on when the gas is taken, but lots of people will take a 12 gas for Marauder. Okay, if he's going to build this, it's got to be Proxy Marauder. He won't be able to get a Reaper out in time.
No.
And that's cool, because I haven't seen Proxy Marauder too much. I personally don't see it on ladder very much. I don't think it's too hard to hold, but it all comes down to how well you can control it. MaSa is probably a lot better than the people that have thrown it at me, so
Polt scouts for proxies pretty damn often, though. So far, the SCV is heading into the wrong direction, but at least he will eventually see there is no barracks at home.
Yeah, that's gonna be the giveaway, right? You go up there, you see, okay, there's no barracks here, and it still could be Reaper or Marauder. Both require different responses. Like, our Proxy Reaper is a bit easier to deal with in a weird sense, because if you have Marauder with concussive shells, it's quite tricky. And yeah, there's the tech lab, so it will be Proxy Marauder.
Polt is going to know immediately.
You need a bunker, but once you get a bunker, holding Proxy Marauder is like the easiest thing in the world. The only thing that sucks is those 2 supply depots that Polt's building. I feel like we're going to be talking about those in a few minutes. If that barracks lifts up and he just hits them from the low ground, that's usually about the most you'll out in time to get a bunker.
And that is most likely what will happen. I'm feeling the same way, and that's pretty bad news for Polt. Actually, okay.
I think it's holdable.
He's gonna get a bunker on the low ground, eh?
Yeah, see, this is what I like. Major used to tell me this is the best way to do it if you scout it super fast, because then you can save your supply depots.
Yep.
So
I like it a lot as well.
This is ideal. What MaSa is gonna look to do when he realizes what's happening is probably go straight into Cloak Banshees. Is usually a popular follow-up. It's a bit tricky though, because Polt has not allowed himself to be slowed down. His factory is already on the way, and he's not managed to kill the SCV building this, so he can't really do anything. Like, this SCV repairs, and that's pretty much it.
And Marauder tried to get as many shots off as possible without taking any damage. He took a little bit of damage in the end, but this bunker will not fall, especially not with this SCV repairing it, like Nate said. At the same time, we still have this, look at this little guy being so annoying.
I love that he wouldn't let him wall that off, because that's really scary for like MaSa. Like, imagine if Polt's factory is about to finish. The last thing you want is a Hellion to zoom across the map.
This looks like a pretty bad opening for MaSa.
Yeah, there's a reason why Proxy Marauder fell.
Popular anymore.
Yeah, there's a reason why it fell out of popularity quite a bit. And,
he might still get 1 depot.
Yeah, that's cute. So it's something. The more that you can get from this, the better. Obviously, even just a supply depot will slow you down. And if these Marines step out, man, those Marauders with concussive shell and range, they're it's like better than Stalkers, really.
You think it's better? Is it easier to micro Marauders than Stalkers against Marines?
Well, when you have concussive shells, so once you hit them, like, if they try to step back, then you just hit the next one. Like, it's really not too difficult. But it's all about how much you're willing to invest, right? Because obviously going into any type of bio-based build is going to be rough from this position. MaSa has a starport on the way. His command center is about to finish, though. Like, we have to consider this. Polt is still technically on 1 base, right? MaSa might have been the one to go for the proxy, but Polt has not too many inclinations towards getting economy past this. And this barracks, it's almost like it's like an overlord too. Did it see that starport?
Not yet. It got real close. But it will at least, I want to say, allow these Marauders to pick off one of these Marines.
I would really like him to send this in. Like, he's going to send it around. He's got it queued to go over towards the left side and then into the main, but he needs to see that starport. I guess an engineer ray anyway. Never mind. He's got an engineer ray and a Viking. He's fine.
Alright, Polt's gonna try to chase down these two Marauders with that one heli, and that's gonna do a good job in soaking up some damage. But so far, excellent micro by MaSa. Curious to see how many Marines he will pick off before losing these two Marauders. So far, he's doing a really good job, Nate. Sick micro by MaSa.
Yeah, this is Marauders and concussive shells can be pretty good.
The other one is like...
You really want to kill that Hellion, obviously.
Man, he can actually
just get free reign over everything. Oh!
Okay, it was real close. Either way, good micro on both sides.
Yeah, I think he traded reasonably well. Polt still technically lost more resources. And look at this. I love this barracks floating over here.
I think he wants to take the add-on.
Yeah, he sees everything. You can't... Like, Polt has a good setup. He doesn't need to move off the add-ons. But if he ever did try, then, you know, MaSa can just plop that barracks right down. In case you guys didn't know, if you're a noob at StarCraft, one of the first crazy things you're going to learn about this game is you can steal add-ons. Banshee moves in. There's a scan for MaSa. And I don't think he'll kill the Banshee with this scan, but if it comes too close to that missile turret, MaSa should get another couple shots off, and he definitely does get one in. He has another scan.
Yep,
Okay,
and this time he will get it.
Yeah.
So that's really good. He doesn't really lose a single SCV against this Cloak Banshee opening from Polt. Slowly but steady, MaSa is pulling ahead in the work account. MaSa is such a good terror. MaSa is a guy that it doesn't really matter how often we cast him. Every single time I feel when we will cast him, he always surprises us by being better than we think he is.
Yeah. One important thing to note about just the build that he picked, like in Terran versus Terran, proxy builds aren't, you know, super popular, but as long as you don't, you know, as long as you don't like lightly do it, as long as you commit to it, you can almost always find a way to slow your opponent down enough that you're not super far behind. Like MaSa is still already in an okay position. You mentioned the work account Banshee did pick off on that Hellion, but this is still this still works for both players. How Polt has a tank, and tanks are very good.
Especially if you're the one with the Banshee as well. So that means that your opponent doesn't have...
Well, you know, there's the Raven. This Widow Mine is actually quite nice. Like, he's got the Raven and the Viking, and that can deter the Banshee. Seeker Missile can help kill the tank.
MaSa is going to lose 2 of his Marines, which represent like 20% of his entire army, which is really bad. This one Widow Mine could be really destined for greatness.
Oh, if it hits the Marines!
No!
Oh.
I mean, he gets the aliens, but it could have been so sick if he got those Marines. That would have changed everything.
Look at this. MaSa has his own Banshee. His Vikings and Raven have pushed back his opponent's Banshee.
Where is his Banshee?
The second tank, MaSa's Banshee's coming in. If he could get, all he really needs to do is get a couple hits on this tank so that the Seeker Missile can kill it. But this is still tricky. There's the scan to get rid of that. And, oh, he's actually damaged this quite a bit. But he really cannot afford to lose that Banshee, especially before his cloak finishes.
He might end up losing this one barracks at the end of the world. But
I think that barracks like this. That's like the biggest sunken cost to this game. The fact that it got this close to his base is actually pretty impressive.
For now, MaSa has evacuated his low ground, which obviously hurts.
Yeah, this is still really tricky because this army from Polt is not something that's going to be just...
tank on the high ground. Okay, so for now, MaSa is going to be fine for a little while.
MaSa really wanted Polt to siege up, but really nice control from his siege tank, and now these two Banshees should clean up the rest of these forces.
Do you think MaSa is going to try to counter immediately with his Banshees?
It would be a really smart idea. Like, I think what Polt has back home is just like pretty much the same stuff that MaSa has, except obviously MaSa just cleaning up that force. He's got his point defense drone potentially if he has to go Viking versus Viking. And I don't say that he'll do damage, but you should always try to gut check, because some Terran players, man, like when they do this type of push, they'll go straight to 3 command centers, or they'll add on their engineering base, and they'll think, okay, I contained MaSa a little bit, but he didn't really kill anything, right? Like he traded a good amount of army resources, but he only killed 4 workers. He just delayed the mining. This Banshee, well, maybe this guy could get some damage done.
It's really interesting how this all played out, because in the end now it's 48 workers against 46. Despite so many silly things happening already, starting off with a proxy, starting off with a dangerous counterattack as well, of course with a cloak band.
Kill. Those are like 4 SCVs that are just 1 shot away. Okay, 2 kills.
3 kills.
Not bad. Not bad. What is MaSa at the
Banshee
bottom?
in the natural is doing quite some work though. This is like the moment where Polt is starting to pull ahead. 8 workers ahead now. Scan might, doesn't need scan as there's still a missile turret detecting this Banshee.
Alright, so he's got a Banshee on the bottom left. What's in the bottom right? Those 2 other Banshees from MaSa? Yeah, this is kind of cool, but there's a missile turret, so...
Oh, he flies him straight into the missile turret as well. Takes so much damage. Yeah, fly back.
What are you doing? Stop.
think maybe Miscontrol tried to save the Banshee over here on the left side. MaSa just lost like 2 of his Banshees and didn't really do the same damage that Polt was able to do. Polt's still up 2 workers, however Army Supply it's surprising, no not actually surprisingly close. I would say economically it's surprisingly close. Army Supply, Polt is pretty far ahead, stims forward as well, wants to fight, picks up one of these siege tanks immediately. I'm afraid that this might be it. I don't think that MaSa can win this fight.
Yeah, I feel like MaSa just lost a little bit too much. Poking out like this was just really aggressive. And that Raven, man, 200 energy, that's worth quite a bit. All these auto turrets, gonna try to be the MVPs. Raven unloads before it dies.
He gets all 5 Marines.
That's not bad.
No, not bad. Better than nothing, better than just dying. But needless to say that Raven could have been more useful. However, MaSa did have enough time to get a tank out defensively.
MaSa needs a little bit of a miracle here, though. This is a tough spot to be in. This is a really rough position. A player like Polt can try to contain MaSa. And when you look at everything, right, worker count, not too different, but some of those high impact units, there's 6 medevacs for Polt compared to 1 of MaSa. There's 5 tanks compared to 1 of MaSa. And even though the Marine count is even, like, even good positioning, it's really hard for that to bring you back in this game. So there's a drop going out that's going to try to fix things up, but this is still rough because Polt scans. He's like, yeah, okay, I can put my tanks here. There's nothing you can do about it. And now this medevac gives vision, and suddenly things get a little bit dicey.
Yeah. I don't really know what to make of it. I'm not sure how MaSa is supposed to handle this. I'm not sure how MaSa is supposed to break out. Vikings doing some work though, getting a medevac and making it a little harder. But in the end, we all know if Polt is knocking on your front door like this, Nate, then you need more than a small miracle like you mentioned before.
Yeah, this is getting just, I don't know, it's getting out of control right now. I'm really not sure if there's much MaSa can do. He's got that medevac
MaSa is actually dropping in the main base.
He's killing some workers. This is nice. Polt doesn't really need too many waves of production to clear this out. Loads the medevac up and it gets killed. So there he loses pretty much all of his aggressive potential. That was really his ace in the hole. And he's up like 3 workers. So that's not too bad, but he needs time. MaSa needs lots of time, and he needs to have like the most godly macro that we've seen in a little while, because Polt's going to move his 3rd command center out, and he already has enough SCVs. Just go straight up and saturate that, as MaSa does, but, well, I guess Polt's going to retreat, so this game should go on a little bit longer. MaSa's just going to be limping along for a little bit.
I mean, fun, nice sort of back and forth TVT over here, the first map on Overgrowth of this best of 5, but I always feel that like Polt is already known for being a star in TVT when he's behind, so when he's actually ahead, I think he's more than a star. He might just be an actual god.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's a little bit ahead in everything. Has a few more Marines, has a few more tanks, has a few more medevacs. He's actually down 2 workers now, so that drop from MaSa did help out a little bit. Polt didn't really, not really overproducing workers in this game.
Yeah.
Upgrade-wise as well, we can see, actually Marine-wise it's even.
Yeah, I like Polt's position. It's really hard not to, because you can stay aggressive now. That sensor tower he built early on is very useful. And as much as MaSa is like, well, no, I'd like to take my 3rd base. Polt's the one that's
2
mining.
tanks being dropped.
Oh, yes, this is so annoying. He's going to be able to deny mining at that natural, and this, it really couldn't get more difficult now for MaSa. He's going to lose one of his gases. And this,
one Han Solo Marine. He had the mission. It's actually a good shot there by MaSa in range of the tank.
He's trying to counteract this, and I do like this. Polt needed to drop a scan on that south side. I feel like he could have done a lot more against this. Now that medevac dropped, like even the friendly fire, if he gets rid of these 2 tanks, just look at that natural mining right now for MaSa. He does not have anywhere near as many workers. He's missing that gas.
He's mining 900
as well.
minerals a minute less than Polt currently is. It's 150 supply against 130. Even though army supply, MaSa still has an army to work with, and he is slowly but steady cleaning this up. MaSa has always been a player that performs well when he's under pressure as well. It's impressive how he handles scenarios like this. I would panic, I would stim forward and lose all my units. But actually he is moving forward now, so maybe I said it at the wrong moment. A couple of these tanks are really low on HP though. He might be able to clean this up, Nate.
Yep, he's coming in. These medevacs are going to try to retreat. Now, killing any or some of these would be like the biggest pickups that MaSa is going to get probably in this series. But like if you look at the income tab, he's been hurting for money for quite a while for how long the early game phase lasted. So really needs to get this 3rd base going. Like he's got almost 1,000 less resources a minute coming in than Polt.
2 more siege tanks on the way as well for Polt. Was just like Polt did a really good job there in like evacuating that army when he had to. Yes, he did end up losing all those siege tanks, but in the end of the day, like you said, he contained him for a while, denied mining of this base, even shot down a bunch of SCVs over here, forced a couple of scans as well from MaSa. So Polt is playing this out very methodical, you know, he's just not overextending in any possible way. playing out very patient, very calm. He's making a lot of the right moves.
Yep. These medevacs on the right side, they pass in the night. Well, neither of them really want to mess with each other. So, this game is
he's playing in a very respectful way to MaSa though. Like, he's not just going in for the kill and trying to run over his opponent, which I think a couple of times he could have done, but perhaps he's familiar with MaSa. Of course, MaSa is a player that perhaps is not really participating in a whole lot of tournaments, or he doesn't stream a crazy amount. He does play a lot of ladder, so most of these guys do know him, and perhaps Polt has some bad TVT experience with MaSa. We don't know.
Let's see. This is a really interesting moment because Polt still has a lot of leads, right? He has 2-2 versus 1-1 of MaSa, and that alone means that in a straight-up Marine fight, Polt will win very easily, and the supply difference alone makes this very tricky. He's just gonna come up. I don't think he can contest this. Yeah, GG.
And I saw it coming for a while. Polt just being a little bit ahead after the opening stage of this game. The very first push with the Marines and with the tanks put him in a really good position. And, you know, we said it before, Polt already a star when he's behind in TVT. When he's ahead, it's not even funny.
No, not even funny at all. You know, it's just, there's a couple of things in Terran versus Terran. When you're playing against, when you're playing Bio versus Bio particularly, if you're up an upgrade, it is almost more, that's like easily like an extra, having 30 extra supply basically on your side during the fight. If you have that 1-1 versus 2-2, the 1-1 player will win. So few out of, like, you could run that simulation 100 times, even if the player with slightly better upgrades is missing a couple Marines, like, they are going to destroy in that fight. So it's very difficult, but Polt held everything together. It's important to keep in mind how that game started, man. We have Proxy Marauder versus a very fast gas build of Polt. So still a lot of aggression being thrown around, and in that later stage it also makes the economy a bit crazier because normally that 3-base play starts happening around the 12-minute mark. That game, it was closer towards the 18-minute mark. So I'll have to see what happens in game number 2. We're going to play it on Way Station. I always love to see this map. TVT can get pretty crazy here.
It's really fun because we don't see a whole lot of games in Way Station in general. A lot of Protoss players especially like to veto it, and a lot of Terran players like to veto it against Zerg. But when you get to play TVT on this map, it actually becomes real fun. I casted a really sick game between Bomber and Polt on this map during the Lone Star Clash Invitational. One of the best games that I've seen on this map. Also, Noni versus Jaedong is probably the best game that I've seen on this map. So I don't see it a whole often, but when I do see it, it's often a memorable game. So let's hope for another one. And let's just go ahead and hop into this game of the winner bracket final. The winner of this best of 5 will qualify for the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen.
Yeah, in the top left, of course, we've got our Root Gaming Terran player in blue down a map. It is MaSa. And he's, you know, he's got to try to bring this one back. His opponent in the bottom right, representing Cooler Master Storm, it is Polt. And speaking of great games on this map, anybody who has not seen the game, the series, but particularly the map that was played in the SanDisk Shoutcraft Invitational between Flash and Byung, that was easily one of the greatest Terran vs. Terran games I've seen in the last year, hands down. I don't know if I've actually seen a better TVT than the one they played on this map. It was truly, truly amazing. They rotated around the whole entire map. It was nuts.
It was pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. For TVT, Nate, it made my heart beat a little bit fast. I got excited. It was really nice as well.
It's hard not to get excited when you've got island bases causing all sorts of crazy shenanigans. But on this map with long spawns, both players can pretty much do whatever they want. Reapers are kind of bad, but Polt, I wouldn't be surprised if he still builds them anyway.
I like how MaSa is going to switch things up. In game number 1 on Overgrowth, he opens up with the Proxy Marauders. In game 2, he does a polar opposite. And he actually opens up with the Command Center first over here on the Way Station. Now, of course, it is the far away spawning locations, as we like to call them. So, you know, rush distance is incredibly far by ground, and it's very unlikely that any build is causing you a whole lot of trouble. And even if this is the quickest cloak benchy opening possible, because this map is so large, you still have a lot of additional time to prepare for cloak benchy. So even with Command Center first, you'll be more than fine.
Oh yeah, like there are really good ways to deal with Banshee play with Command Center first. Seriously though, like in a long map like this, the way that MaSa is opening up is great. Like Command Center first into 2 barracks, it's gonna hold off anything that you get hit with. I'd say the only thing this build is kind of weak against are fast Hellion plays because you don't have anything mobile enough to deal with them. But even that in and of itself isn't the biggest problem because you can still have a lot of Marines to spread out if you build a bunker in the front. Anyway, like there's so many different situations that can occur, but it's not a huge deal. What is kind of weird is this bunker from Polt. And he wants to abuse the late production. There won't be a Marine out until around the time this bunker completes, but this is simply a case of you're not going to see it.
That is really strange, Nate. I haven't seen this, especially not on a map as large as Waystation. Now, of course, Reapers are quick, so they will make their way across the map relatively quick. That's so funny. I mean, this Reaper is going to be extremely annoying, because we all know you can micro Reapers forever against Marines, because every single damage you do is real damage against this fake damage of the Reaper that's just going to regen.
Yeah, and the thing is, Reapers beat Marines one-on-one. Like, that's it. So this is nice that the SCV actually tanks a few shots for him. But this is still awkward, because suddenly you're in a weird position where Polt built 2 Reapers, which is not necessarily uncommon in this matchup, but more often than not, you'll see just 1 Reaper into a reactor. And it's not that Polt, I imagine, was intending to do this in the beginning, but maybe he just feels like on this map he can abuse it a little bit better.
And I mean, and maybe also have to see in the command center first, no?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he can start microing this already.
A reactor this fast, okay, it's Tech Lab.
Tech Lab.
Okay, I was gonna say that even a Tech Lab this fast is pretty greedy. He has to be going for like, is this gonna be a Marauder or combat shields? Like, he has to be really worried about the Reapers. If this was 2x Reaper, I think Marauder is great, but Stim, okay.
Stim, alright, we'll see. I mean, either way, I really think that first SCV, like you mentioned, it made his life so much easier, because that SCV saved that first Marine from not dying. If that first Marine would have died and then 2 more Marines would have died, it would have been a really tricky game.
And Polt's already going up to 3 command centers too, so you're right, it would definitely have been tricky if that SCV gets picked off, but Polt has put himself in a very weird position that is kind of good for him, but he still needs to be careful. The fact that this map is so long means that even when MaSa breaks out, he scans and doesn't see the command center, but even when MaSa breaks out of his base, he still has so far to go across the map that Polt will have ample time to prepare. And this bunker is still super annoying, because he can always just he can just salvage it. Like as soon as he brings it, look at this, he's bringing workers, he can deny mining, and now Polt, he doesn't have to sit here and die. He can if he wants, but
he's even repairing. Look at that, he's repairing the bunker for a while. He's picking up quite a few SCVs. MaSa is still up 4 workers, but of course he has to still worry about these Reapers. There's a Hellion in the mix, 2 Hellions in the mix.
This is so smooth by Polt. This really shows that he just has a really good understanding. Like, Hellions obviously are great units to take advantage of the size of the map. Since we know Polt is, he generally only ever plays bio, but he knows that on this map, when you're in the early game, Hellions are good. With Reapers, they're even better. And he's forced out 3 Marauders, and that really slows down your build, especially when you're playing against someone like Polt, because he's not going to go mech. Those Marauders will have very little use later on.
Yep, that bunker does finish up, so that's going to make MaSa's life a little easier. He will end up losing an SCV over here in the front. Overall, it's still relatively even worker-wise, but of course that 3rd orbital is about to finish up for Polt. So he's going to be able to produce SCVs 3 at a time. It just kind of feels, Nate, like you said, and Polt has such a good understanding of this matchup that it just feels like he's always dictating the pace of the game, like he's always in control, and that he's always the player that decides what is going to happen in the next 2-3 minutes in this game. And when you're in that position, playing StarCraft becomes so much easier.
Yeah, it's just like, when you look at the rest of the setup, MaSa also has missed out on a little bit of information. So he has missile turret in his main base, he got his engineering bay early on, and these are investments that aren't really working against what Polt has done. So Polt's also got a very nice tight build, and this Reaper even gets into the main base. He can go in, he can scout. He's like, well, you're gonna go bio, all right, you don't have your reactors, that's fine. Polt is about to finish up his 4th and 5th barracks already, and with 3 command centers, this is going to be a very difficult game for MaSa moving forward. I feel he needs to make some plays once he gets Stim out, once he gets everything else rolling.
What do you think he got all these Hellions for? These 6 Hellions?
It's just map control, because this is a huge map. Like, on a map this big, your early Marine pressure isn't going to do anything, but this is also nice because he can catch any drops that come by, and he can pick off units at the tower. I don't think he intends to really, because Polt's not a mech player. I don't think I've ever seen him go mech versus another Terran player, so it's got to be just because of the map.
Well, MaSa is going to move out with these 2 medevacs full of Marines. His combat shield is halfway done for him. He does, of course, have Stim, but he already showed Polt as well that he has Stim, and Polt also saw the Tech Lab very early on. And he never saw concussive shells. A couple of missed turrets will go down for Polt, who's perhaps a tiny bit worried that he's caught out of position, but he really doesn't have much to worry about. He has just about, he's even up in army supply. So defensively, he has nothing to worry about. His reinforcements will arrive in time. Just now, this 3rd command center is going down for MaSa. It's halfway done. The scan goes down by MaSa, I believe, as well, as he wants to see what he has to worry about. Does see the orbital this time.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you look at things like the barracks.
Look at the Viking.
Yeah, well, that Viking's in a great spot for Polt.
Cool.
Polt actually gets supply blocked pretty hard a little bit there. Those barracks haven't been pumping out units. He's been stuck at 81 supply a little
Yeah,
while.
that's very uncharacteristic. I don't see this very often. That's very strange.
Yeah, MaSa gets just a bit of a supply edge in this situation. Like when you look at the production for Polt, he has a lot of barracks available, so he'll catch up with his economic lead. But it's all about deciding where you want to allocate your resources. Those missile turrets also slowed him down. He built like 4 of them at once, so. Yeah, even that's like a whole wave of production right there.
And MaSa even up in workers now, despite Polt being able to produce 3 SCVs at a time so much earlier. This is something that we often give major props for, and I really think that goes for MaSa as well. They are one of the very few North American Terrans that are just crazy with their SCV production. I guess QXC as well, but like if you look at guys like Illusion, he would always pick units over SCVs if he feels like it's the right choice. But I feel like some of these other Terrans are just always non-stop SCVs, SCVs, SCVs. MaSa actually 8 workers ahead now against Polt. Maybe it wasn't as dark, or maybe it wasn't looking all as grim as we thought it was.
It's still an interesting situation because Polt's building up for the later stages of the game with all this early defense he's invested in. Good pick off on that medevac in these Marines. But Polt's 1-1 is about to complete. I will say I don't think he built an armory, so that could end up slowing him down. MaSa has... Well, I still think just 1 engineering bay, but he's got his armory together.
No, I think MaSa
Okay, now MaSa has a second one. He's just waiting for the armory to finish. So MaSa is actually going to get his +2 attack a bit earlier and just his +1 armor later. So I think he's actually okay. But there's a very small window right now, actually, where his Marines are a little bit weaker.
Polt misreading a couple of his own forces. MaSa trying to make this happen. Of course, having control of the Zelnaga Watchtower and Way Station is awesome. But we still have 2 medevacs as well, full of bio units flying around on the left side of the map. Polt sees this because of his sensor tower, and he wants to jump on top of this. He's probably going to try to get a medevac again as well. Yep, a lot of burst damage, but not enough. Eventually, we'll clean this up though, just because he has a few more units. We'll get 1 medevac. Second one almost dies, but now he has to worry about his command center, Nate, or his orbital.
Yep, this is a scary position to be in. MaSa runs those Marines under there. Polt trying to get his forces in position. But I love these siege tanks. They're basically playing, they're the guards here, just holding everything
really
up.
Exposed though.
Yeah, that command center will be able to get away, it seems. But he does kill the tanks as well, so that's quite tricky. That command center is very low on hit points, but not quite close enough to start burning.
It's actually half on HP, it should be more than fine. MaSa sends another 8 units with a medevac to the Zelnaga Watchtower. This time Polt again stimming forward. I love how he always does that. As soon as he feels like I have a few more units than my opponent, always attack move forward, or like a move command forward, so he's able to get as many shots off as possible. Still has Alien as well on the north side of the map. MaSa is giving him a good run for his money though, and MaSa is still up 14 workers, which is remarkable. Polt is up 17 Marines, but...
MaSa still hasn't started his +2 armor yet.
Oh, this hit spot. Now he can kill this orbital command if he stims forward.
This would be so good. He gets under the command center. SCV needs to repair, needs to bring his Marines over. This should be able to hold it. He's picked up a lot of the workers and he can boost away, but that's a scare. That's a mini heart attack moment. If MaSa snipes that,
then you're looking at a completely different game.
Position. Yeah, I completely agree. But you know what else is really nice? He's been lifting this up, moving it around. Look at MaSa's third. Saturated. He's got supply depots built there. You know, he's already got some leftover bags of chips. He's been saying, I've been here for a while, man.
Like we said, that Polt was dictating the pace of the game early on. For the last few minutes, it's been MaSa all over the place, who's kind of like pushing Polt around a little bit. And Polt is not falling apart. It wouldn't be fair to say that. Who did just drop like 7 mules at his base. So there's a good chance that Polt is going to be maxed out around the same time as MaSa regardless, despite being down in supply. This is plenty of
the mules make that income tab look beautiful. Pulling in like 3,000 resources a minute. How beautiful is
Polt
that?
has more Marines on the map as well still as MaSa, so he has to be really careful. MaSa stims forward. One of his tanks is really exposed. That's a good position for Polt, especially because a couple of his tanks were sieged up already. So if I was MaSa, I'd just back off for now.
Yeah, I mean, MaSa, if he could take an even fight, I'm sure he'd love to. That tank count is a problem, but you know, he's, at least at the moment, he's just barely ahead in upgrades. He has that +2 attack, which really has a huge impact on these engagements. Of course, the siege tank count just makes that a little bit too rough for Polt. So, how many does MaSa have total? That's 5 versus 8, and Marine count is similar.
Big Marine skirm is in the middle of the map. Roughly 14 Marines going down there for Polt. Well, I was just taking a look at the production as we saw that Polt had a few more Rexes than MaSa, but MaSa is working on catching up. Of course, neither player can truly commit to the fights that they're taking. It's just Marines exchanging bullets in the front, but neither player wants to stand in range of the tanks.
gas taken for Polt so he can start to get more tanks out. He does have a second factory now, I believe, as well. Very important at this stage of the game. If you lose any of those siege tanks, replacing them is very, very important. And a little bit of a fight. Polt's 2-2 is done.
Man, MaSa is playing really well now, Nate. He's maxed out. He's been really in control of this game for a while. He has units all over the place. Polt is like exposing himself pretty badly. Of course, MaSa is also playing with fire because Polt can attack him soon from 2 directions. And here we go. This is going to be the most important fight of the game up to this point. All of the tanks die immediately.
Yeah, MaSa's taking a reasonable fight. He spread his Marines out as much as he can, but he needs to get the rest of his army over here. Almost more medevacs than Marines at this point, and he's actually flying into the missile turret line, so it's going to get taking a little bit of extra damage.
Those tanks were all a little bit too far in the back of the army, and they were all sieged up a little too late. Polt stimming in forward from 2 sides, picking off 4 tanks immediately, and after that it was obviously a fight that Polt could take. The income tab shows us that it's still very easy, even. MaSa had definitely money to work with. He's gonna have to take care of this one Hellion that's been here since the start of the game.
That Hellion.
Ooh, imagine if we would have got 2 shots off on this. That would have been beautiful.
Imagine if it would have gotten 2 shots of blue flame. just to see
Man,
it.
look at the tank count of Polt. He has 13 siege tanks.
Yeah, this is how Polt likes to play. He loves his siege tanks. Now, MaSa's gonna come in for a fight. Needs to get himself spread out, and there are just too many tanks here for Polt. MaSa, I mean, he doesn't have any more advantages really at this point in the game. He has a nice amount of medevacs. He's had reasonable Marine production, but Polt he's been making some big strides. In these head-to-head fights, that siege tank count is so damn important. The only thing MaSa has to look forward to, I think, right now is his +3 attack will be done, and then he'll have a solid 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's actually huge, because not very often do you see someone having +3 attack 2 minutes before the other guy. So that is really probably the only thing that MaSa has going for himself. He needs to try to get a massive fight off. He still has a few more workers, which means that Polt's army supply will always be a little bit bigger. It seems like Polt is aware of these 2 medevacs as well on the left side of the map that are full of units. Polt, of course, like spreading Marines out all across the map like he always does.
Spreads them out the same way as those overlords he kills, man. That's how Excellence collecting. Medevacs are going to unload. And
great.
yeah, this planetary is about to finish, but he could kill this, I think, pretty easily before it actually manages to finish
might see a big engagement over here. This time, Polt is the one with all of his tanks on siege. We'll siege up a couple of tanks. Polt is dropping on the top side over here, but this planetary will do terrible things with all these Marines that are hugging each other. But a few SCVs will be picked off, so that's nice for MaSa.
Yeah, I like this.
Actually, very nice.
Moving the Marines behind the mineral line, just abuse the range. And MaSa puts 1 tank in the mineral line to say goodbye to those Marines. Polt will do likewise, just to make sure everything stays A-okay. And this is a nice
This is the moment for
TVT.
MaSa to fight.
Yeah, this would be the best time, I think, if he could get a full army engagement. But Polt, he's not going to make it that. Oh, he's dropping onto this tank. I don't know how I feel about this. Killing the tank would be nice, though. He gets it.
Get it.
Yeah, now you can just go back behind the mineral line. That's just really annoying. That's like, when you're playing against somebody that does that, you're like, really?
Yeah,
you're trying that hard to get these guys here. He's like, oh, and then the mules drop. Polt's like, screw you, I don't even care. And he's like, well, you just lost the mule, so.
That's actually one of those things where you're just like, seriously, man, stop it.
It's
really unnecessary what you're doing now. You're just trying to show off. Either way, Polt is moving forward. His massive tank army, and there are not even that many Marines in this mix. It's less than 24 Marines, Nate.
Yeah, this is scary because MaSa's army is right outside Polt's base. And
he's sieging up.
Once Polt sieges on the production, MaSa's never going to get more units out of his barracks.
Way station.
Look at this command center. Look at these siege tanks. I think Polt's doing a really great job of just thinning out this army as MaSa tries to perform the same. You know, MaSa can't really force the base trade in this scenario, I don't feel. Polt just has so much more. But, I mean, I guess that's where we're going.
Yeah, it is going to happen. Polt is still up 35 supply. That was pretty much the same. Maybe he can pick up the armory. It's just +3. Never mind. Polt's bio units have +3 now as well, correct?
Yeah. Both players have 3/3 upgrades on their bio, and they're trading. You know, when this situation happens, I always feel like the most important thing you can do is salvage your production. So that you can keep making units. Otherwise, even with the few mining bases that MaSa has, like MaSa has a lot of income now, but he has no production, so his money is useless. And I guess another thing is you're going to lose all your supply depots. The Polt still has a few bases, and
but like Marines are awesome in this phase in the game because they are the most mobile units, and Polt has 62 of them, while MaSa has 30.
Yeah.
MaSa's popping out a few of them. If I was him, I would send like 15 SCVs over here to the south side and just drop like all a crazy amount of supply depots.
Not a bad idea. Oh, going to the island. You know, this is actually kind of reminds me what happened in that Flash Beyond game. Basically, you put in this awkward
this is
space.
not all that bad from. Okay, this is really nice for Polt. I didn't even see that Polt had so many units in his main base.
Yeah, he's really done a great job of utilizing the production that he had here.
All these depots are going to fall, and that's really bad for MaSa, because that means he won't get any Marines forever.
Yeah, this is scary. This is really scary. He's adding on his extra factories. He's trying to build production as other expansions, but Polt knows with the bigger army, eventually he's actually going to be able to just sandwich what MaSa has outside of his main.
It's 65 Marines against 22. I would love to make this more pretty than it is, but Polt is doubling. He's tripling him in Marines, and he's doubling him in siege tanks. 14 against 8 now, so MaSa did manage to get like 2 tanks out. That is something, I guess. And I mean, this base is pretty safe. Like, that's not something Polt wants to stim into.
No. And look at this, even about SCVs. Like, Polt has so much money.
But Polt can start dancing back and forth with these Vikings.
Well, yeah, he can do that. But the thing is, Polt brings his army back to his main, moves his main force towards the ramp, like he just sandwiches. I don't.
It's like the most.
This game shouldn't be winnable for MaSa. Like, if he finds a way to bring this back, this would be one of the most impressive TVT comebacks I've ever seen.
Oh, look at these tanks though. These tanks are going to get really juicy shots off for MaSa. Of course, there are still so many tanks for Polt that in the end, I'm afraid it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's a problem. You lose.
He's doing some work with it, definitely.
Production. And, yeah, he's trying. He's hanging in there. The problem is he's actually going to spend all of his resources repairing that planetary anyway. So
look at Polt's money as well. Polt has so much money. MaSa knows it. GG is called. And Polt will take a 2-0 lead in the winner bracket final of the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen Qualifier. Just one map win away right now from living up to his reputation again of being the best player in North America currently. And it is pretty impressive. You know, in the start of the day we talk about the players that signed up, or the 16 players that were left in the Stage 2 qualifier. And we go over it and we see all these names and we say like, okay, Polt is the overwhelming favorite, but it is hella impressive, Nate, that he just keeps living up to that expectation that we have of him over and over again to just win these tournaments, because it's not easy.
No, it really isn't. When you talk about the way that Polt has to juggle, of course, he had his school for a long time while he was playing in America, and now he has the time to go to Atlanta. He just practice all day long. We've seen Polt in everything from WCS America, North American Battlegrounds qualifiers, and I'm sure we're probably going to end up seeing Polt at MLG. I wouldn't be surprised. He's all over the place. So to be as consistently good as Polt is, I think, one of the more impressive things. There's lots of players that have their hot streaks and then their cool periods where they don't really get much done. But if there's a tournament, Polt, he always shows up. He's rarely the player that gets knocked out early, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to wait for game number 3. MaSa is going to have to pull off one of the most remarkable comebacks of all time. Being down 0-2 against Polt in the TVT qualifier is really hard. Meanwhile, I'm going to take a look at the bracket as well, see if there's any updates, if Huck vs Violet have been played out yet. I guess Huck is currently playing against Violet, and I'm really curious to see what's going on in that series. Perhaps someone could give us an update. If Huck wins that series, Huck would move on to play against Puck, which is also a really cool PvP series. I would love to cast that. And then the winner of that series will play against the loser of this one, which by the looks of it now will be MaSa, but it's not over yet.
No, it is not over yet. So we've got Merry-Go-Round as the third and potentially last map in this series. MaSa needs to steer things back. Merry-Go-Round is not a bad map. For some early aggression, some early shenanigans could certainly pop out in this series, but Polt just being solid, standard Polt, really, that's the best way to describe him. He's a very hard guy to break, very hard guy to rattle, and I really am not sure what you're supposed to do to beat this guy. MaSa is good, we know that. He had a very good game in the last map, but Polt just catching him out of position, making a little bit more siege tanks, spending his money a bit more effectively.
I feel if there was one map so far where I think that MaSa might have what it takes to defeat Polt, it might be Merry-Go-Round. This map plays out a little smaller, so if MaSa goes for one of his unique TVT builds and gets like a small container off, or just does some magic with the first Hellions, with the first Medevac, or maybe with a very quick cloak Banshee, or gets like a good edge with a Raven against a Banshee, this is probably the best map to actually capitalize on an advantage, because it's so much smaller than Waystation and Overgrowth, at least in certain spawning locations, and I would say that this is one of them. So perhaps, Nate, this is the map where this awesome blue Terran on the right up side of the map, representing Root Gaming, MaSa, will be able to bring it back against the guy that we said in the start of the day is, of course, the overwhelming favorite for this North American qualifier, the CM Storms, Polt.
And, definitely As much as we try to commend MaSa for putting up a good fight, Polt is Polt, and he is just so damn good. I mean, if he wins this game, he qualifies for IEM Shenzhen, and that is in and of itself a nice achievement. Both players are going to go gas first in this map. I personally love gas first on this map. With the way that these spawns work out, it's a pretty direct path to just fly straight across to either your opponent's natural or your main base. I'd say I prefer it more for MaSa because he can actually just go straight over to the main without going near the natural. But it's not the most significant difference.
It's written Wind Park.
Wind Park.
What do you think that's all about?
Wind Park's the guy that made the map.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Now I know.
Yeah, Wind Park Prime, I think.
Man, he's really full of himself. Puts his name everywhere.
There's little homages to the people that make the maps on.
Nah,
on
they
MaSa.
deserve it. The map makers are awesome. They deserve a lot of love. Once upon a time, we did a small show around map makers with Mr. Bitter. It was really cool. Played some crazy maps. It was fun.
Crazy
Either way,
maps are the best.
we'll see how this one is going to play out. It is definitely possible, especially because MaSa is going to scout, and if he's able to check this refinery, then he will know immediately how Polt open up as well. It is possible that MaSa opens up with an answer to maybe a Cloak Banshee opening and tries to get a small build order advantage one way or the other. This could be a very short and explosive TVT. Probably is going to play out a little different than Waystation, and this could definitely be the game where things turn around for MaSa.
Yeah, I totally agree. This map, when you look at these build orders, you have a couple of options, and we've seen the full array from also Polt's series versus Major, and what was it? Also Neeb versus Tasia in WCS America, where we've seen the Cloak Banshee openers, we've seen the Hellion Marine drop openers, and we've seen the Raven openers. So there's a lot of options, and this Fast Tech Lab from MaSa screams Banshee. And I'd be surprised if he did anything else. In fact, the way that he set himself up, he can build the starport on the tech lab, so he will have literally the fastest Banshee that you can build.
Still a single refinery for Polt. So what are we expecting? Just a few Marines and a Hellions and a Medevac?
Well,
Maybe a Widow Mine?
I think the Hellion Marine is very, very strong build. Personally, that's what I like to do a lot. If you don't go for a second gassing, Hellions, Marines, like three Hellions, six or five Marines, and a Medevac, and you just try to do a really fast drop on your opponent's base, and it's a really strong, hard build to deal with.
All right.
But he's going to build a mine as well, so
He has a Hellion.
Yeah, the Hellion, I guess, is to scout.
Going to check the center of the map, and now he's going to run up to the high ground to see if MaSa already has a command center on the low ground, which would be very ambitious on a map like Merry-Go-Round. He's going to see that's not the case. We'll probably pick up this ramp as well. I know my Polt. Then he sees 3 Marines, and that's enough information. That's all he needs.
Yep.
Is that the second or first mine? That's the first mine.
The one thing that he doesn't know is the gas count. As Polt's done this, Polt has opened in this manner defensively. Like he's set up to go for the mine drop, but he can still build a Viking. You know, I guess if he drops the mine, then he doesn't really have too much home to defend. But he might run into the Banshee while crossing the map.
Yeah,
anyway.
but if that Banshee is being sent to the other side of the map, I'm a little bit worried as well for MaSa, because all that he has is 5 Marines without a Medevac and 1 Widow Mine, which is in the natural. I'm curious to see if this Banshee will see the Medevac for... Oh, he's going to see the Hellion. Doesn't see the Medevac, and this actually could get really bad for MaSa pretty quick.
Yeah, this actually looks pretty rough. He's building more Marines, building more Hellions. If that Widow Mine burrows, I think things get really crazy.
Of course, the Banshee can do a lot of damage on the other side of the map, so it all comes down to multitasking and execution now. This one Hellion is going to help quite a bit.
Yep, Widow Mine is burrowing, and MaSa will not be able to kill it. The splash on those Marines!
What a shot!
That's
a game.
I don't want to say that's game, Roddy, but that might be game.
That was like, I saw all those units being clubbed over here. The bluff map is still there. There's just nothing but bluff between the refinery and these Widow Mines, or these mineral patches, excuse me. These SCVs are all fallen. Other turret will be dropped. You can actually repair the other turret. That's a really cute idea, but in the end, it's not going to make the difference. There is still 1 Widow Mine, but I think Polt is very well... it's hard to see, though. But I think he's very well aware of the Widow Mine. The Banshee did some damage at home, but of course Polt wouldn't be Polt if there wasn't a missile turret.
No.
Oh, wow. Polt is going to do it, Nate. I think it's safe. Oh,
my God,
Polt,
the
stop
bait!
it, you! That's so ridiculous.
Damn!
Absolutely ridiculous play over here by Polt, as GG is called, and Polt will be the first player to qualify for the Intel Extreme Masters Shenzhen from our North American qualifier. And I mean, you can't even blame MaSa when stuff like that happens. Paul is he's just from another level, man. He really is.
Polt playing from another dimension. That's so cool. Run the marine up, tap, boop, like,
Polt lost.
I got nothing. I got nothing. That was great.
Polt only lost 3 units that last game, and those 3 units were 3 SCVs because the bench had 3 kills.
Yeah. And he had the missile turret up. Like, that was just a solid, perfect defense from Polt. I don't know what to say. MaSa went for an attack, and really, that whole game, that should have been completely different, right? But
yes.
I don't know if there's too much analysis to do on your Marines were a little clumped next to those SCVs and the Widow Mine hit.
I saw the Marines being next to the refinery in that small little alley, basically next to the middle lines, and I was like, if that Widow Mine is going to shoot there, it's going to hit the heli, and it's going to hit all the Marines, and it's going to hit the SCVs as well. That would just be disgusting. And of course, when it's Polt, you know that it's going to shoot over there. He's probably manually clicking, spamming the hell out of it. And,
yeah, that's...
Well, once again, it's impressive that Polt just keeps doing these kind of things. You know, we often talk about Polt, the overwhelming favorite, yada, yada, yada. Polt will probably do it, but the fact that he just does it and he keeps doing it, and also in convincing fashion, nothing but respect and love for Polt. And of course, I can't wait to see how far he will go at the Intel Extreme Masters in Shenzhen. Last time, Nate, at Cologne, he had a fantastic run. Intel Extreme Masters, the grand final in Katowice, it went not as successful for Polt as he would have perhaps hoped for after losing in the quarterfinals. However, we all know that Polt, at any given moment, you know, he can just go all the way again, and he can all make us love Terran and appreciate the beauty of the race when someone like Polt plays it. For now, we're going to head over to a very small commercial break. After that, we'll be back with perhaps... let's take a look at... Is there an update of Violet versus Huck?
I did not see any information posted about it.
Oh, actually, Illusion defeated Puck. Did we already say that? I guess we did, right?
How about that?
I'm not sure if we are touching that. Either way, we have 1 more best of 3 left for you, and then we have 1 more best of 5. Maybe 2 more best of 3, 1 more best of 5. I don't know how it's going to work. What I do know that every match from now on, someone will be eliminated, and someone will still be in the running to qualify for the Intel Extreme Masters. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.